Hey there, Transition Tuesday with Jane and Jackie. It's my friend Jackie Mcnair. Joe Grillo did not want to participate today. I guess because he knows when I get together with my friends, he's kind of like rolling his eyes. Jackie and I have known each other for a few years. Jackie's the Gwinnett County Parent Mentor, and been doing it for a while like me. And we have older children who are going through transition planning. And I thought Jackie would be an awesome person to talk to. So welcome, Jackie. Thank you.
Thank you.
So let's talk about what is transition planning like now that Kendra is out of school. And I guess we should stop for a second and talk about Kendra. You know, how old is she? You know, how long has she been out of school?
Well, you know, my memory is not that good. I'm thinking she's been out of school 3 years and going into her 4th year.
Okay.
Be out of school. Kendra will be 26, July 20th. She's a young lady that lives with autism. She used to speak, but she stopped speaking at the age of about 2.5. So she's never used any words since then. She has learning delays, but she doesn't know that. So she is quite independent and has a mind of her own. And she can be such a pleasant young lady to be around. But she's an adult now, you know, and that's funny to think about it, isn't it? When we met each other, we had little babies, and now we got these. Yeah.
Yeah, I guess when you started as a parent mentor, was Kendra in school at that time?
She was 9 years old. She was
Okay.
9 years old. Yes.
So yeah, so elementary school all the way up through.
Yeah.
So so what is, I mean, we talk a lot about transition planning in elementary school, then going up to middle school, then going up to high school. But what is transition planning now that she's been out of school for a bit?
You know, in some ways you would think it would be easier, but in a lot of ways, schools hold our hands more than we know. And once we get there, that bus stops coming, and you look around and you realize it's on me. There are no companies that come and hold your hand and just really explain it to you. There's nobody to tell you what your child's life should look like or to give you ideas. And the two of us are sort of in the same boat, that we have to feel our kids and know their likes. And we have to look at them and recognize what makes them smile, what makes them irritated. So we have to kind of have it in our heads. What would Kendra want her life to be like when she leaves school? So that's something I thought about way ahead of her getting out of school. I would watch her, I would watch the things that brought her joy and the things that she cares nothing about. And so doing my best as a mom to try to plan for what should life look like for this young lady. So a lot of it is some of the same things we were working on in school. I wanted her to be as independent as possible. One of the things I always thought about, I always had it in my head that Kendra would never live with us forever. Even though that's a very tough decision for parents to make, especially when you have a child that's so involved. But I never wanted to take her life and make it mine. I never wanted to choose to just keep her, you know, because I think she deserves better than that. And I think I'm a wonderful person, but I love my mom and my dad. But at a certain time, I was ready to go on my own.
Yeah.
And so I respect her that she has those same feelings. And she shows them in a lot of ways, like locking you out. But so I thought I was watching her as she was growing up, trying to think of what would life look like for her. So first I had to come to the conclusion that she was always going to need a huge level of support. There was always going to be somebody that had to be me. That's how I thought about it. I got to find another Jackie, you know, for Kendra to do the stuff that I'm doing and that eventually you do get tired of doing as much as you love them. So I would look at what her needs were. And so one of the things that I wanted to do was make her as self-sufficient as she could be. And that meant teaching her how to care for herself, how to brush her teeth, how to wash her face, how to take a bath on her own, how to clean her room, how to take responsibility for some things around the house. Now that's still going on. That's still a job. So transition still goals that you have in school still goes on for a person that is delayed and it takes them a while to learn something. And it doesn't mean they can't learn. She is so wonderful at some things that she's learned how to do. I mean, her bed, she makes it up like a nurse in a hospital.
Wow.
She puts her sheets on tight. I mean, she doesn't want you to touch it. She wants to do it.
That's her thing.
So
Yeah.
there are some things that she has truly learned how to do. But transition, all the things that we think about in school, helping her learn how to express her needs, that still goes on. I'm still doing that. Helping her to know when to tell a person no, how to do it properly, not pinch, not push, but do it properly. So transition looks a lot like it looked in school. And you know that even when you get support, you still have those yearly plans that you still have to set goals. You still have to say, what is a goal that I'd like to see Kendra accomplish this year? And so you still have to pull things out of your hat and have creative ways of helping them continue that walk in life. Because one of the hardest things I think I had to accept that I remember when I first learned that she would live with autism and I read about autism, it said that it was a lifelong disability, it's a neurological disability. That was the hard pill for me to swallow because I couldn't picture lifelong. And as she grew and she got older and older, I saw that it was true, that this is her life. This is who she is. It's fine, that's who she is. But so she will always need a great level of support. And so like you, my biggest thing is just finding what those supports look like, how to make them happen. But transition, I think we have to connect more than we want to with our community, with other people. It doesn't stop.
So knowing that you had the goal of her not living with you forever and ever and ever, it changed, I guess, the types of support you were looking for, obviously, because you could opt, if she were going to live in your home, to have direct support people come into your home so many days a week and do that traditional style of transition. But you found a program that you thought would be a viable option, or maybe more than one, but I know that there's one that you kind of have in mind. So, I have my signs. So as you prepare for Kendra to move into a program where she's in her own home environment, I know you spent a lot of time on daily living skills and self-care, but what are some things that you've had to consider, to make all of this happen?
One of the things I considered is what type of setting would fit Kendra. And there are different settings. So yes, she could have stayed in our home, and she already currently gets help in home. And that's good. And I'm so glad we have it. And it's made a huge difference.
So she has a waiver. She has a comp waiver.
She has a comprehensive waiver.
Mm-hmm.
And so it supports her having care in the home. It also has given her the opportunity to go out in the community much more than I do. She has a much more active social life than I do because she has people to take her places that she enjoys going. And I've learned things about her, even watching that and watching things she does like to do in the community. It's taught me that she does like to be with other people. She loves leaving me here and kind of giving me a little touch to say, Mom, you're going to stay here, and closing the door on me. But that's one of the things that I looked at, what does she like doing? She loves being around people. And that is what I like about her, that she loves people. And so I had to consider what type of setting would fit her. So there's different ones, so host home, which is where if I were to provide care in my home for a person with disabilities, they would live here with me, and I'd be totally responsible for their lives. I looked at that several years ago. For Kendra, that didn't quite fit what I wanted. One of the reasons is because she has no way of communicating with me, like picking up the phone or dialing me in and telling me what's going on. So I wanted more oversight, and in all of it is trust, with everything. We have to trust them in the classrooms with the teachers. The same way we have to trust. And I do hear this all the time. I'm sure you do. I don't trust anybody with my child. Well, I don't have a choice. I have to trust somebody. I have to build those trust systems. And so I work very hard on finding people, good people, and building that and doing my side of getting them to trust me. And I always did that even in the school system. I reached out even more to the teachers than they probably reached out to me. I wanted them to like me. I wanted to be one of their favorite parents because I wanted them to watch out for my child. And I wanted them to know I appreciated all the hard work that it takes. So the same way looking for a place for her to live, I think as a parent, you sort of know when you walk in the door sometimes, would this be where my child would stay and be okay? So I've been to places. This is something I've been doing for years, Jane, is going and looking and seeing what's out there. And it started way back when I was a new parent mentor, and there was another mentor who had a child. Here, Kendra was 9, and her daughter was 22. And I had a conversation with her, and I said, "So what's your daughter doing since she aged out of school?" She said, "She doesn't live with me. She lives with someone else." And you would have thought she told me Kendra had to move. I told her we were 4 hours from home when that happened. And I drove home that day. I said I cried all the way home. I was like, Lord, I got to do that. It was just so heart-wrenching for me to think I had to let her go sometimes. Even though I knew it in the back of my head. But she was such a big help to me because I started talking to her and saying, what enabled you to do that? And she said, I started looking at letting her go some when she was young. I started letting her hang out when she was young. I let her, and she said, if you can't let go, let her go to a day service for a day and come back home. And then when you're comfortable with that, let her sleep overnight somewhere and come home. And then if you get comfortable with that, let her sleep several nights away and come home. And that is what I practice all over the years. She's been going to camp for about 7, 8 years now, up in past you, somewhere near you. She's been going to camp.
Where she is right now?
No, she's actually in a day camp right now.
Where she's at a day camp.
This was 3 hours, and it's about as long as she wants right now. But she's having a great time doing artwork, dancing, that type of stuff today. But this camp, we stayed overnight for 4 nights, and she got to stay with other young ladies in a camp setting. And the young people that worked in it, college students, were great. She loves it. And I can remember picking her up one time. I still have that picture. I took a picture of her. Me and my husband were watching her. She didn't know we saw her. I say, look at her. She's in her element. She loves this, so those type things I practiced over the years to just try to give her some freedom and to give myself a little confidence that it will work. And I also got to practice what the house is like when it's quiet, when there is no noise, because, she makes noises. When I don't hear her, she's not walking around. And it actually was okay. We got to keep a few things in the refrigerator that we normally don't. But but I practiced that. But I always consider what would the setting look like. And so for different parents, they choose different settings for different reasons. For me, Kendra, I think a group home setting fits her better just because she does like people around. She does like to interact with others. And it also means that there are more eyes that have their eyes on people. So there's somebody, hopefully in a crowd of people, there's somebody who's responsible, who takes the lead if they see something not working right. So did I answer your question? Or have I just gone off in a tangent?
No. We're just talking.
Okay.
But so when you did you go look at the place first, or did you know somebody who had somebody that was living there, or how did you even start checking on this kind of program and support?
Well, several years ago, I know Ann Ladd, who now works at the Department of Ed. Well, we were co-workers, and we came up with the idea to do a training that we call transition learning. And we, one of the things we wanted to do, because we had done a lot of community training ourselves, community workshops that we had attended when our kids were younger. And so I think we drew from all the different trainings we went to, and we came up with this plan. And one of the things we wanted to do was give parents access to real life situations. So we said, let's take them on tours. And we started touring places. So we started way back. Our kids were still really young. And I can really remember the very first house that one of the companies here in Georgia that has group homes, they allowed us to come in and see 2 individuals home. And we took about 10 parents with us, and we walked in. And I can tell you, even now, I can feel it, that weight that came off my shoulder.
Mm.
I said, wow, they do live somewhere besides my home. And these young men were similar to Kendra. They had even more needs than she had. And they had lived in this home for 20 something years together. The
Wow.
room was clean. It was no smells. And you can tell that they required support with their body and stuff.
And I
But
know clean is a thing with you.
yeah, yeah, it was clean.
I mean, it is with everybody, but I know
Yeah,
you love to
yeah.
clean.
But I do think I'm a little OCD. I actually got a mop over here leaning against the wall right now, but when I get off the phone, I'm gonna start mopping.
But that
But
is important. Like when you walk into a facility and it, I don't want to downgrade anybody, but if it smells like urine or like, then you feel in your heart as a mama, like those folks are not being taken
they're
care of
not caring.
appropriately.
They're not
Because
caring.
in your home, you would not let that stand. So
Mhm.
that's a big thing.
It
That's
is.
a really big
It's a very
thing.
big. My mother, in the later years in her life, needed support. But my sister was worked in nursing, and she took her in. My youngest sister, and I don't care when. And my mother moved in with her. Her last 11 years of her life, she lived with my sister, and she at some point she got where she needed help with bathing, with her when she had to use the bathroom, she had to be changed, and I can remember watching my sister do it one time. I had to help hold my mother to the side so she could clean her. Oh my God, I never saw anyone take such meticulous care in making sure this person was totally clean. The things that we as moms care about, because she didn't want my mom's skin to break down. So
Yeah.
I was just looking at her like, oh my God, she's just taking so much time with this. And she wasn't concerned with what it smelled like, nothing. She just wanted to make sure my mother was clean. And that's the way I hope that people would take care of our children,
Yes.
that everybody would treat another person's loved one like it's their loved one. And we all are going to get there someday. That's the thing. As long as I've lived now, I don't think I've ever met anyone at the end of their life that didn't need something. And so I just know too that I'm going to need something, you're going to need something. And so we need to be doing what we want done, you know. And so I watch that, and that's the kind of care that I look for, that I really do want Kendra to get. I want your son to get. I want our friends to get. And so I look at that. How clean is the place? Does it look like somebody ever comes in here and wipe anything down? This place was so clean, smelled good. The guys were clean. They were going out that day. And I can remember we got outside and I asked the parents, what did that make you feel like? And they said, oh, like a weight off my shoulder. And so we kept that up. And I've been doing it since Anna's left years ago.
Yeah.
Just keeping it up, going out to tour places to see what's out there. Sometimes you get people that let you in and they'll talk to you, they'll tell you about their program. Some, because of privacy rights, sometimes they may not let you look into a home, but
Yeah.
I'm lucky enough to be able to do that. But also with Kendra, when I started looking, I think when I first started looking, I wasn't serious about letting her go. I was practicing.
Yeah.
I was taking these baby steps to see what it felt like. And the very first time I visited a host home, and she was needing a lot of care then. She was ill at one point where her behaviors were totally out of the bazooka. She was just tough to take care of. And she did get the waiver during that time. And I looked at a host home, and it was a beautiful home, but I didn't feel like it would fit Kendra. It was beautiful. The lady was very nice. She needed a lot of care then, both health-wise and behavior-wise. So I wasn't feeling real secure with it. But I can remember when I walked up to the door and I opened the door to go in the house, I was crying like a baby. And so the lady didn't get much out of me because I'm crying the whole meeting. But it was so heart-wrenching to me. I felt guilty. I felt like I was giving her away, like I was putting her somewhere. I was putting her off. And I do know that's part of what we go through when we decide to let them have their own lives. But it still was my best first practice, And so I've just kept it up over the years. I've looked several times and started several times.
So what I'm hearing is that it takes years of planning and prepping yourself and your child, and that developing a relationship with organizations or programs is essential because now they know you. So, and I'm sure that there's a waiting list, right, to get into some of these places. So if you have developed a relationship with those people who run those programs, it means that maybe, your name rings a bell with them on that list, that waiting list, and it's important. Like you said, with developing positive relationships with the teachers where they felt appreciated and a partner with, like you were partnering with them. I think it's kind of the same thing, right? With a plan, or I mean, a program.
It is. And I think too, some agencies and programs have, because they're fundraisers sometimes, they have events that you can attend. And that's something I attached to a long time ago. It's starting to let Kendra be present when they had events so they could see her and say, oh, maybe she's not so bad after all. Sometimes if you read her individual support plan, you might think even like school, when IEPs, I always tried to meet the teachers before they met Kendra to talk to them about Kendra, because I wanted to tell them about Kendra from my eyes, the mom's eyes. Because I say, if you just read her paper, you'll think she's overwhelming. You might think, oh my gosh, she's coming to my classroom. And the same way with other people once you leave school. If all they see about your child is the paperwork and they never meet that child, they never see that person in a setting with other people. And people, especially a person diagnosed with autism, a lot of people already think they know what that's like. And every person with that diagnosis is different. So I've always wanted them to see Kendra in these settings, to see how she behaves, how she is. So she's gone places with the agency we're currently talking to. She's attended baseball games, Christmas parties. They've seen her out in the public. They've seen how she is when she's with other people. So yeah.
So what are some ways that that she wants this too? Because if we're doing supported decision-making and self-determination skill building with our kids, how does she let you know that she likes it there? And how do you know that she wants to live there?
Several years ago when I went to this same particular agency and took her to visit, she took over the house when she got there. She was all over the house, looking around, touching stuff, reading magazines, sitting at the table at dinner, smiles all over her face, getting the other people to react to her and interact with her. She was happy. And then recently when we visited, we had masks on. And this was the first time my husband and my son went with me. My husband went several years ago when we looked. And I backed off that time because sometimes too, and you may be like this too, because we're already mentors. And sometimes I think I've left my husband a few steps behind me because he works in a different place. He's doing something else. And I'm going on with all this transition planning. And I tell him stuff, at home over dinner or in bed, but sometimes do they really hear you, especially if the basketball game is on?
Yeah, so, my husband calls me the CEO and I'm like, yeah, because I'm doing it.
Yeah, and one of us do have to take that lead. Yeah.
Yeah.
But he went to a house a few years ago to see one that I was pretty sure this is it. She's moving, and it was in a good location and in a really nice setting. But when he walked in that door, because I know him, he was trying to act normal to the people that were there, but he looked like he was about to fall apart.
Aww.
They said, let us give you a tour of the house and show you the house and show you the room she would have. And oh my gosh, he looked a mess. And so when we left, I talked to him about it and he was, it was very hard. But I said, I'm sorry, I haven't brought you along on this journey, of looking at homes. And I said, so let's just talk about it for a while. Let's keep talking about it. And then you can go next time we do this, you can go with me and be in it with me. And so that is what I did. I told that agency that I was backing off. And it was hard for me to admit. It was very heart-wrenching to think about it. And it was a little bit, I must be OCD about everything because it was a little bit before the age I had written down on my goal for her to move out. Oh. I was like, well, it's really not time. My goal says a year later, so I got to wait a year later. But
do you have a move-in date?
Yes, now, not really, but sometime in the fall.
Okay.
So I'm treating her like a college student now. She's getting all this new stuff, new sheets, new towels, new underwear. She's got a new mattress.
Wow.
Just making it fun to look for things for, and I'm talking to her about it. We're going to visit again soon and have dinner with the other families. But when we went there, the reason I know she liked it, and the other place that I told you we changed our mind on, she didn't have that same body language. It's almost like she was just there, but she wasn't interacting with the other person. She wasn't interacting with the house. She didn't care when I walked her to look at where she would stay in the bathroom. She just wasn't into it. When we went this time to this place, my son went for the first time, her brother, who's 2 years older, and her dad, and her brother spoke up when we were having conversation. He said, my sister is happy. He said, we're all wearing a mask, but she's done nothing but smiling in that mask the whole time we've been here. And she was happy. I mean, she sat in the kitchen and, I talked to her about this is going to be your kitchen, and she just showed a lot of signs of being a lot more comfortable there and a lot happier, and her body language spoke well. And
I guess on the flip side, then, if you're talking to a program and they are not willing to let you come in and see things, and if they don't have a lot of events, then you might want to steer clear of that one, it sounds like.
I would think so. I would think that as a parent, if you've got to make that critical decision, because at the end of the day, I'm making the decision. I'm just going by what I see in Kendra. You've got to be doubly sure that that's where you're going to give all your the care of someone to. And I do think it matters how. I mean, it almost, when you think about it, you go to a store, you call a business. It matters how that person that answers that phone talks to you.
Yeah, sure.
It might be the difference in you going or just deciding not to go. And so I think it's critically important that we do the same thing when we're looking for care for our adult children.
Yeah.
But it's a journey. It is totally a journey. It's like you said, this didn't happen overnight. It's still not happening overnight. And I'm glad now that we're taking it in steps. And so what our plan is they will visit each other for several months before they move in. Because, with the state, you're always waiting on some kind of approval. But everything is just not totally approved, to move in yet. But a beautiful place. I feel really good about the location. Not far from us. I could get there in probably 40 minutes, 35, 40 minutes, which is short for Atlanta. And I like the other people that are involved, the families and the young people that she will be rooming with.
And they do all the paperwork. So all of the things that you're doing right now, because you have a comp waiver and you have staff coming into the house, all of that's going away.
Oh, yeah.
Because they're doing all of it now, right?
Yes, and that part, I can remember somebody telling me years ago, I know when I first started this job and this mom, her son had moved away, and she was telling me how it was a little difficult at first, but she said after a few weeks, and I've asked over the years, I've asked several people, we know others have done it, and everybody says it may be hard at first, but after a while, you can breathe because you're not doing everything. And right now, I'm pretty much doing everything,
Yeah.
So that I do look forward to that. You talked about transition. Well, we're also transitioning at the same time our kids are, we're getting older. And my husband and I, we actually were late bloomers. We had our kids later than most people want to have their kids in life. And not because of us, it took that long, but we always wanted children. And so did we ever get them when we got the two?
Yeah.
I have a 28-year-old son.
I think the other piece of this, like you, we have another child, but she lives out of state. She lives in Michigan, and she has created a lovely life, which is what you want your kids to do. And I know that she is not going to be a caregiver for her brother like I'm the caregiver. And probably if Jerry and I went away tomorrow, she would have to find a facility for him, a program or a home or something. So that's in the back of my mind too. I mean, I don't expect my daughter to take on my responsibilities for her brother. So, that's another reason for at least being open to considering a program that's not, in your home.
That's exactly the way I thought, and especially because I came up in a big family, but we only had 2 children, and then the other one is a boy. So I've always thought about too, what if my son marries someone who really doesn't even want Kendra around, you know?
Yeah.
So I had to even think like that, but I really could not expect for him, like you said, to put his life on the shelf and just be her caregiver because he didn't have her. And I couldn't expect for him to find someone that wanted to do that either, unless that was the business they were in. So I never depended on that. And I think I got really serious about it when he was about 10. And I said, this is the last year you'll be asked to babysit your sister. And I just was going to do whatever I had to do to let him have his space, his life, be able to plan and do whatever it was he wanted to do. So like you, of course, we try to school our kids about their siblings and let them know where the papers are and all that stuff. But no, I never wanted to put that on him. Because for us, it's been a lot of work. But because we loved them, I wouldn't call it a burden. I would just call it what I do as a mom. But for someone else that you just lay it in their lap, it could become a burden.
Yeah.
And I did see someone down at one of the DVHDD regional meetings that they have. And I recognized her, I thought, but it was someone I had gone to high school with, had come down there to talk about needing a waiver for her brother. And her brother was older than her at the time. He was 65, she was younger. And I'm sure she had to work through bitterness because she said, my parents passed and my brothers, we've been caring for my brothers since they've been gone, me and my sister. She said, it's like taking so much of my time from my own family. She had children and a husband and a child. And she was just saying, it's becoming more and more overwhelming for us to care for this person. And she was able to get somewhere for him. But it's sad that it took that long and that they were compromising their lives a lot.
I mean, as much as I would love to, well, I think some days maybe not, but I'm not going to live forever.
Yeah.
So, and I'm not always going to be able to, Joe weighs like 70 pounds right now, and he may weigh more than that, later, but I mean, I may not be able to lift him up anymore.
Mm-hmm.
So, what are we going to do? Well, I know we could get a lift and I know all those things, but the big issue is like, kind of like we do with parents, you have to call 911 because my mother fell and I can't get her up, off the floor. And, I mean, those are for real things that we really need to prepare for. And I really appreciate how giving you were about, this is very personal stuff that we're talking about, but I feel like whether you have a person with a disability in your life or not, these are important human things to understand about. So I'm really grateful to you, and I've always appreciated how candid you've been. Every time I've ever been at a thing with you, you always do that. So I have one more question. I dropped my sign, but here it is. What are your hopes and dreams for Kendra?
I want to see, she has a lovely smile. She enjoys life. I want her life to continue that way. I want to always see that bright smile. And I don't care how simple it is because she's simple. It doesn't take a whole lot for her. She doesn't want the latest styles or none of that stuff, even though I overspend on things like that for her. But she loves good food, good people, music, art, every now and then a puzzle. I picture her life being with people that enjoy her. I sent her to a camp some years ago, and I was speaking at a school, and I was sharing a story about her. And one of the young ladies there was an intern, and she said, she was in that meeting. She said, I know your daughter. She said, I had her in a camp. That's the value too of letting them get out and do things. She said, she was a hoot. We got so much laughter from her. We were all laughing. She kept us in stitches. And I wanted to know what was she doing? What made you laugh? But I saw pictures of her, in the bed because everybody slept in this little teepee kind of thing. But that's what I want her life to be like. I want her to be having joyful moments. And when she needs help, I want there to be someone there to help her. I want people to be tolerant of when she's not her best and still help her through those times too. But I want her to continue to have the quality of life she's had at home. And not even just the quality that she's had here. I want it to be better than here. And that's what I say to parents all the time. We think we're it. But no, I do believe somebody can do it better than me. Because I think, like us, my mother used to tell us, and it was 8 of us growing up, 9 of us growing up. And she would come back from church or whatever, and she said, everybody say, you got the best behaved children. But we knew how to behave when we went out in public. And so I'm thinking Kendra's that same person too. She knows what's expected of her too. And she always comes up to it a lot of times if she tries very hard. So I want people to always give her opportunities to show what she knows. Since she's been going to camp this week, people always say, well, how do you talk to her when she doesn't speak? How do you know? And I say, you do. It's the only option you have. You learn how to communicate with them. You learn their triggers. You learn what they're trying to tell you. Sometimes you don't figure it out, but you might get close, But I say, but if you stop and listen to her, she talks to you. She does talk, she does let you know what's going on. And so I found out this week, as they've gotten used to her at camp, because it's a new camp for her, that people are really beginning to understand her and to see what she's saying to them, what she's telling them. And they seem to be I'm told they're getting a lot of joy out of having her there. And she is that kind of person that just draws people to her. So that's what I dream for her, is that she'll continue to draw the right people in her circle and just enjoy life and enjoy all the things that is out there for her. And I do advertise every now and then. I'm also looking for her boyfriend. So if your son is looking for a woman.
Well, he's young for her because
She doesn't care. She might like young women.
But he is handsome, so
Yeah,
they
he is
may
very
be a
handsome.
cute couple.
Yeah, he's very handsome. But yeah, she's making a list of eligible bachelors too.
Oh my goodness.
So
That's awesome.
and I have done that with her. I've gone out with a friend and we take her son and Kendra and we let them go for a walk in the park, and they look at each other and giggle a little bit. I think she knows more than the guys do usually. But just give her that interaction too, because she may want to be around guys sometimes.
That's not, Joe, we were doing a reading program one Saturday, and this old friend of Joe's who had aged out of school, she came over and gave him a kiss on the cheek. And I thought, I couldn't have ever predicted that, but that carried me for days.
Yes, it does. One of her people that used to work with her, a young lady, they were like friends. She was only a year older than Kendra. And they went to the Walmart, I think, one day and standing in line. And she said, oh my gosh, I got so embarrassed. She said, this guy was in line behind us. And she said, he had these big, bulky muscles. And he was handsome, he was good looking. She said, Kendra walked over to him and touched his muscle. She squeezed his arm. And I said, oh, I'm so sorry. And he said, no, it's fine, it's fine. And she said, when we were walking out of the store, I said, Kendra, you really know how to pick him. So she's awesome. Aware, I think. She's aware.
That's our kids as real people, as everyday on the street people living their lives. Oh, well, Jackie, thank you so much for this. I really, really appreciate you giving me this time and having to spend a little bit of time together, because
we get to
COVID, we don't see each other. I know. But thank you, and this will be coming out on Tuesday, and it'll live on the YouTube channel, Transition Tuesdays with Jane and Joe, but Jane and Jackie today. And thank you so much.
You're welcome, Jane.
We'll see you around.
Okay, you can always reach out to me. Just know that.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.